Hey guys, it's Toby and we're going to be building a gaming PC for £350. Let's go! Alright, first of all we have the AMD A10 7850K. The A10 7850K is an APU, and APU stands for Accelerated Processing Unit. Now what this means is that we have our processor and our graphics card all rolled into one. So you won't be needing to buy a graphics card, you're going to be using the integrated graphics on the A10 7850K. Now it's a quad-core APU and it's clocked at 3.7 GHz, and you can overclock it to 4 GHz right out of the box. And coming onto the graphics, we have an integrated AMD R7 GPU. The R7 is about equivalent to say a 7850, so a graphics card that would have been 2-ish years old. Now you might be thinking a graphics card that's 2 years old, we can probably buy something newer, but those are really expensive, and considering that the budget is £350, we're better off using the APU. You're going to get good performance in games such as Battlefield 4 because the A10 7850K supports AMD Mantle, which means you're going to get a really slight performance boost in games that support it such as Battlefield 4 and Thief. As well as this, performance in other games is going to be really solid. You're not going to be able to max everything out at Ultra, of course, considering it's only a £350 build, but you are going to be able to play everything that you throw at it. Games such as Minecraft, DayZ, Rust, Football Manager 2014, 2015, Civ 5, any game you want, you can play it with this build. And you can play any console equivalent game like Watch Dogs or, I don't know, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. You can play those games at a higher detail level than you can on a console, and that's why the A10 7850K is actually a really good APU. It's great value for money. We're not going to be able to buy a graphics card, but you can add one in the future to get even more performance and vastly outperform a console. So that sums up the A10 7850K. Moving on to the RAM, we're going to be using 8GB of Kingston HyperX Fury. This is a follow-up from the Kingston HyperX Beast line. It's basically the same thing but rebranded, and it's clocked at 1866 MHz, which is perfect for our build considering that the integrated graphics relies on the system memory. The faster your system memory is, the more performance you're going to get in games. However, it's only going to equate to about like 1 or 2 frames, but every frame counts, right? So that's just it for the RAM. It's 1866 MHz, it's 2 sticks of 4, and it's going to be great with our APU. And you can overclock it as well because the APU supports up to 2133 MHz, I believe, and so does the motherboard. Now coming onto the motherboard, we're going to be using an Asus A88XM-Plus. The A88XM-Plus is a mouthful, and it's also FM2+. FM2+ is the standard chipset for our APU, and since it's A88X, that means we're going to get the highest enthusiast line of the FM2 chipset. We're going to get support for HDMI, DVI and VGA. The HDMI is HDMI 2.0, which means we actually have support for 4K. If you have a 4K TV, monitor or anything like that, the HDMI port on the back of this motherboard combined with the AMD R7 graphics on the APU will give us a 4K output. It's only 24Hz, but it's really nice to have. You can do 1080p at 60Hz, and you can do 2560 by 1600 at 60Hz with the DVI out. As well as this, we also have support for USB 3.0 on the front panel and the back panel. We have up to 10 USB 2.0 ports, 4 on the back and 6 are in the middle of the board. We've got your standard things like 10100 1000 Ethernet, Realtek audio, all of the Asus proprietary software like GPU Boost. But the main thing here about this motherboard is that we have a PCI 3.0 slot and we have another PCI 2.0 slot. This means that we can add graphics cards in the future. And when we add a graphics card in the future, since it's PCI 3.0, we're going to get the best performance possible. You can also add another version of the same graphics card and run them in Crossfire. We can't Crossfire any Nvidia cards because this is an AMD based platform and Crossfire is only supported on this motherboard. You've also got support for up to 64 gigs of memory, which is fine considering that we only have 8, but you can also add more in the future. Also, it's micro ATX, which means we're going to get a smaller build than a normal ATX motherboard. You're not going to have a massive tower, but you are going to have a nice smaller tower, not the same size as a console, but still it's going to look really small and it will fit nicely on a desk or below a desk. Now coming onto the hard drive, we're going to be using a standard 1TB Western Digital Caviar Blue. This is the hard drive that I've been recommending since the very first videos. It's 1TB, it's going to be more than enough for our games, our music, our movies, anything you want really. You can always get a 500GB version if you don't need 1TB of storage, or you can always get more. There's 2TB models, there are a whole bunch of different manufacturers as well, but the Western Digital Caviar Blue is what we're going to use. And coming on to the power supply, we're going to be using a Corsair CX500M. The CX500M is a 500 watt power supply as the name suggests, and also we're going to have a semi-modular design. Semi-modular means that we can disconnect and connect cables which distribute the power depending on whether or not we need them. So our case is going to be really small considering it's micro ATX, and we're not going to have any random wires laying around because it's a modular power supply, so we only use the wires that we need. So it's 500 watt, and that means we're going to get all the power that we need for this build and more to add a graphics card in the future. If you're going to add two graphics cards at the same time, you might want to look at getting a 600 watt or maybe even a 750 watt depending on what graphics cards you add, but 500 watt is going to be more than enough for our build and for any future upgrades that we throw into it, so we'll be fine right there. And it's 80+ bronze certified, which means you can get clean and efficient power. And finally, coming onto the case, we're going to be using a Zalman T3 Mini. And the T3 Mini is a micro ATX case, which means it's going to fit our motherboard perfectly, and since it's made by Zalman, it's really nice. They don't typically tend to use metal in their cases, but they do use solid reinforced plastic which isn't gonna bend or break anytime soon. And it's not cheap plastic used by other manufacturers. We don't have a window, but we do have good airflow, and we've also got support for front panel USB 3.0, which is more than you can ask for in a case at this price point. It's really nice, it's really compact, it's going to fit our motherboard, all of our components, all of the wires, everything. It's even going to fit a graphics card which you can add later on in the future. So overall it's a really great case which offers you good value for money in a small micro ATX form factor. And yeah, that's it guys. Thanks for listening. Leave us a like if you like this video, leave us some feedback down below in the comments. If you have any questions you'd like to ask as well, feel free to ask them in the comments. I reply to everyone as quickly as possible. And as well as this, if you're planning on buying any of the components, please use our links in the description or click on the screen here where I have the components listed out. It really helps us a lot. I cannot state that enough. It helps me out, it helps the channel grow, and everyone benefits. Also, you guys should follow my Twitter, which is linked in the description below, or you can follow it right here by clicking on the annotation. I'm going to be posting a lot of PC component deals on my Twitter because it's not really worth making a video for them because by the time I get it out, the deal might have ended. So yeah. That's a nice little thing, and also you can talk to me on Twitter as well if you have any questions there or just want to say hi, you know. So yeah, that's it guys, thanks for listening and we'll catch you next time.